They come in the dead of night, masked, armed, wearing police uniforms. But this wasn't a robbery. This was an execution. This was a flat-out execution, a political execution. Minnesota Representative Melissa Hortman and her husband are dead, or as some people might want to say recently, unalived. Shot down in their home while Brooklyn Park police watched the killer walk through their front door. 45 names on a hit list. Federal and state officials marked for death. The mainstream media calls it random violence. But when a Democrat who broke ranks gets murdered by someone with a list of political targets, that is not chaos. That is a message. And what you're about to see is going to shock you to the core. And this is what happens when the establishment decides that you know too much. We're going to need you to keep watching, okay? We got Opawica.com. Now, gold has always been the go-to safe haven during inflation and global uncertainty. And right now, prices are soaring to all-time highs. That's why smart investors are looking at Opawica Explorations Incorporated, trading on the U.S. market under the ticker OPWEF. Opawica is a gold exploration company operating in the legendary Abitibi Gold Belt of Quebec, one of the richest gold-producing regions in the world, responsible for over 190 million ounces of gold from more than 120 mines. Their flagship properties, Bazooka and Arrowhead, are surrounded by multi-billion-dollar players like Yamana Gold, and they've just kicked off a massive 20,000-meter drill program across these primo sites. Backing them, legendary gold investor Eric Sprott, who invested $1 million of his own money, clear validation from one of the most trusted names in the business. With strong infrastructure, proximity to proven mines, and leadership from CEO Blake Morgan, a third-generation miner, Opawica is strategically positioned for discovery. Shares are currently trading around 11 cents, but with exploration underway, the upside could be absolutely explosive. Visit Opawica.com to see their latest presentation. That is Opawica.com, Opawica.com. Now, the evidence is damning. A coordinated assassination dressed up as random violence. Acting U.S. Attorney Joe Thompson laid out the horrifying details. This wasn't a crime of passion. This was a political hit job. Listen to Thompson reveal the killer's methodical planning. A hyper-realistic mask, something you might find Tom Cruise wearing in a Mission Impossible movie. A tactical vest. Police lights flashing. He studied his victims. He knew their schedules. He had their names written down. Check out this clip.
The Brooklyn Park police officers fired at Boelter as he rushed into the home, but he escaped into the home and out the back. Officers recovered Boelter's 9mm Beretta, along with the body armor and the mask, behind the home along his path of flight when he fled on foot. They later searched Boelter's car, where they found 5 more firearms, including assault-style rifles and a large quantity of ammunition. Boelter also had in his car notebooks containing a list of more than 45 Minnesota state and federal elected officials, including Representative Hortman. Now, Boelter planned his attack carefully. He researched his victims and their families. He used the internet and other tools to find their addresses and names, the names of their family members. He conducted surveillance of their homes and took notes about the location of their homes.
I think it's insane how, we hear from communists how we have to have gun control, but they're, that's to protect themselves from themselves because they're the most violent people on planet Earth. They've caused more death and destruction in the 20th century than ever before in humankind. 45 names, Minnesota state and federal officials, Representative Hortman was on that list, and now she has been unalived. She's dead. But here's where it gets truly sinister. Brooklyn Park police arrived before the killer entered the home. They saw him. They engaged, and somehow he still got inside. Thompson's next revelation changes absolutely everything. Take a look at the clip.
Boelter then traveled to Brooklyn Park, Minnesota, in the home of Minnesota State Representative Melissa Hortman. At approximately 3:30 a.m., Boelter arrived at Representative Hortman's house in his black SUV with the police license plates. He parked in the driveway and left the emergency lights on his SUV flashing as if he was a police officer. Boelter approached Representative Hortman's home, again dressed as a police officer, wearing the tactical vest and body armor, and wearing that hyper-realistic mask. He was armed and carrying a flashlight. Before he entered the home, 2 Brooklyn Park police officers arrived at the scene. They too had been dispatched to check on Representative Hortman after learning of the shooting of Senator Hoffman. When they arrived at the scene, they saw Boelter's black SUV parked in the driveway with the emergency lights flashing, and they saw Boelter standing in front of the house several feet from the door. When Boelter saw the officers get out of the car, he drew his weapon and began firing. He rushed into the house through the front door, firing into it. He repeatedly fired into the house, and when he entered, he murdered Representative Hortman and her husband, Mark.
You know, in cases like this, I don't distinguish between Democrat and Republican. This is an absolutely devastating and heartbreaking story that is going to affect the lives of people to come for a very long time. And, you know, do I appreciate that she broke ranks? Yeah, of course I do. I appreciate when people like act with integrity, even if they have differing beliefs than the ones that I hold. But what this family is, this is going to change the lives of their kids for absolutely ever. They're orphans now. Now think about that. Officers on the scene, the shooter in the driveway, emergency lights flashing like he was one of them, and then gunfire erupts, and then he rushes inside to complete his mission. It was like he was given a red carpet to go and complete his mission. The killer didn't just murder Hortman and her husband. Their service dog, Gilbert, was shot too. And I know a lot of us are pet owners, and we care about our pets like they are a part of the family. Their children had to put him down. And this wasn't just a killing. It was a complete destruction of an entire family. We got the image of this beautiful dog, and she looks like a nice enough lady. And you know, we can all disagree politically, but this is where some of the push comes to shove. You know, I mean, the same people who murdered this person's family, you know, they didn't care. You know, the only thing they lamented about the assassination attempt on President Trump was that the assassin wasn't a better shot. This is what they lament. And we can still hold these people in our hearts and wish the best for their family. Now, this is the total annihilation of a family. Every living thing in that house was targeted. Now, that's not random violence. That is sending a message. This is how communists, this is how socialists, this is how leftists like to send a message. Even Hortman's colleague, Heather Williams, can barely process what happened. Watch her struggle to make sense of this targeted assassination. Take a look.
I wonder if you can give us some reflections on your friend, someone that you worked with so closely.
Yeah, I'd be, honored to. I feel like was the honor of a lifetime to know her. And the truth is she is exactly what we need in this moment. Her loss is felt so deeply, and it is tragic for her community and her family and the state of Minnesota. She led in such a way that was principled, and she was fiercely competitive, but she never lost sight of what she was competing for. It was not about a title. It was not about power or a personal gain. It was solely about helping a community and making life better. And I feel like at a time when things are so tough, there's so much heavy news happening, she just exemplified what we need. And we're going to take some time, I think, to really navigate this. My heart breaks for Minnesotans and all of her colleagues and family, and the recovery of Senator Hortman and his wife. There's a lot to do there, but I think we are going to be guided by her legacy, and we'll try to live that every day.
Principled, never about power. And this is something we want in our politicians, even the ones that we disagree with. And, we would hope that we could more often reach across the aisle. But these aren't qualities that get you randomly murdered. Being principled, never about power. These are words that get you eliminated when you step out of line. And here's what they're not telling you: the timing, the precision, the kill list. This was professional. Someone wanted Melissa Hortman silenced, and they made sure the message was clear. Cross us, and this will be your fate. Tim Walz, what a putz, deleted every social post praising the shooter. Every single last one. Because he doesn't want you to know what he actually thinks. He thinks you're just going to memory hold this. We're not going to memory hold this. You don't scrub your social media for a random killer. You scrub it when you realize that you've been connected to something bigger, when you realize that your rhetoric directly led to this assassination. 5 more firearms in the car, assault rifles, massive ammunition cache. This wasn't ending with Horton. She was just the first name crossed off the list. And who ordered the hit? Well, who benefits from unaliving Democrats who dare to think differently? The mainstream media wants you to believe that this was mental illness, random violence, another tragic incident. But when someone dresses up as a cop, carries a political hit list, and executes an elected official while police watch helplessly, that's not random. That's professional. That is coordinated. That's a warning to every politician who might consider breaking ranks and maybe voting for Trump to support this country and to support American citizens. That is psychopathic, narcissistic leftists doing what psychopathic, narcissistic leftists do. They killed her. They killed her husband. They killed the family dog. They destroyed everything about this family. This family is never going to be the same. And somewhere, someone is crossing her name off a list, asking, who's next? Now, if you got value from this report, tap subscribed. My final thought is next. Now, this execution should terrify every American, not because a politician died, but because of why she died. Melissa Hortman was murdered for stepping out of line, for having principles, for refusing to play the game. And she was distraught by her decision, too. They didn't just kill her. They sent a message written in blood. You conform to our leftist communist narrative, or you die. You will lose your life if you try to vote with Trump. Now, Brooklyn Park Police watched a masked assassin enter her home. 44 other names remain on that list. Think about that. How many other people are out there? Right now, elected officials are looking over their shoulders, wondering if their principles are worth their lives. It's something we all should ask ourselves. We all have kids. We all have lives. We all have things that we need. Is it worth it to go out and say what we think? This is how republics die, not through votes, but through violence against those who dare to dissent. The establishment media will memory hold this story. Trust me, this is going away very soon. We will keep it alive on this channel. They call it random. They're going to blame mental health. I sort of agree, except, when we talk about strange cluster B psychopathy, narcissism, is that mental health, or is it just the grip of Satan and a demon taking over these people's bodies? Like, what are we talking about? Mental health or evil? Now, my question to you tonight, is this a mental health problem? Or is this just plain evil? Hit Y for yes. Hit N for no. Let us know what you think in the chat. Comment below. We're going to be talking about this a lot. Now, you want to fight back with truth. Now, grab your next news gear at the link below.